All right, guys, so today we are going to be starting a brand new topic called percent proportions. And this is something that you've probably never seen before, so it might take us a little bit of time to get used to, and there's a lot of pieces. But once you get the hang of it, it's something that's pretty simple. Okay, so the first thing we need to talk about is this thing right up here. This is called a proportion. We have three pieces that are equivalent to each other, and we are going to call it a WKU for words known, unknown. So up here at the top, we are going to write WKU. So in the future, WKU means a proportion. So anytime we say either of those words, they mean the same thing. WKU, proportion, words known, unknown. So in our proportion, our percent, we have already discussed. We know percent goes over what? 100. So if percent goes over 100, okay, we are going to input that at the back of our proportion. So we are going to put percent over 100 and our unknown always. That never changes, okay? And then the words are going to be my part, because this is a fraction, and then my total goes on the bottom. And this always stays the same. Total, part, percent, 100. So things to remember. Total goes where on a fraction? It goes on the bottom. So we always need to know total goes on the bottom, and then percent goes over 100. So we are going to use those two really important pieces to set up our proportions, okay? So example 1, in a park, 40% of the trees change color in the fall. There are 500 trees in the park. How many trees in the park change color in the fall? So we have a percent, 40%, and we know that those trees change color, and we know there are 500 trees in the park. We want to know how many trees in the park change color. So we know 40%, that is not 40 trees. 40% does not equal 40. So when we have a percent, so let's go back up to the top here. If we have a percent and another number in a word problem, like we do here, we have a percent and another number. If we see that, that is going to be a red flag that we are doing a WKU proportion question, okay? So a percent and another number is a WKU. So when I set up my WKU, I need 3 lines, and they're equivalent. We're going to have 3 different sections, WKU. So go ahead and set that up. And we just discussed that percent always goes over 100, and my total goes on the bottom. Okay, that never changes. So now I'm gonna go in my word problem and see if I can find those pieces. So do I have a percent in my problem? Yes, I do, 40%. So if we have that, this is the really easy part, we just put it on the percent. So that part is easy, it's done for us, 40% over 100. Now we have to decide on that 500. Is that my part or my total? So in this question, I have trees. Some of them change color, some of them do not. So my word for up top would be color, because we specifically want to know how many change color and what is my total. So when it says there are 500 trees in the park, that means that the 500 is the total. So if 500 is my total, is it going to go on top with the color or bottom on the total? It's total, so it goes on the bottom. So 500 goes here. So now, in a proportion, we are always going to have a missing piece. Always, always, always. So what we are going to put for that missing piece is an X, okay? X is the missing info. It's the part that we want to know. We are answering that question. So go ahead and write that down. X is our missing piece. You could put a question mark, but in math, we usually are gonna put a letter, so X. So right now, I know by looking at this that I have X color 500 total, which is equivalent to 40% over 100. So to solve for X, the first thing we're gonna do is we are going to circle corner to corner. We leave our X outside. So we circled the two numbers across from each other and we multiply those two. So we are going to do 500 times 40. So 500 times 40. Okay? And I can actually write that problem. When you have a 0, you can knock that 0 outside and just bring it down. So 4 times 0, 4 times 0, 4 times 5 is 20. So this 0 back here just came straight down. So that's a trick when you have zeros. So that answer is gonna go at the top corner. I have 1, 2, 3, 4 zeros, 2, 3, 4 zeros. So I'm multiplied. Now the number that's left over, so the 100 that's not circled, we are going to divide by that. So I take that answer and I put divided by 100. And we could also write that like a fraction. So 2, and then I have 4 zeros over 100. And before I actually cowboy and horse that, we have some matching zeros. So I can get rid of those and those. So really, I have 200 over 1, which is just 200. So now that I have multiplied and divided, let's see if that 200 makes sense. So if I have a total of 500 trees and 40% of them change color, would 200% be an okay answer? Yeah, because it's a little bit less than half. 40% is less than half. So that would be my answer, 200. All right, next question. Example 2. A shop owner offered a 20% discount off the regular price of a mirror. The amount of the discount is $3. What is the regular price of the mirror? So in this problem, I have a percent and I have another number. So if that happens, a percent and another number, oh, we need to put a number sign on that, and another number, then we can set up a WKU. So let's go ahead and set that up. I need 3 lines with equal signs in the middle. WKU. So my percent goes over 100. And what word goes on the bottom? Total. All right, and then let's see what we have in our problem. So in this one, I have a percent, so we're good to go on that. That's the easy part. And that is the discount. So that means my word for that is going to be discount. Okay, and I read that right here. It said a 20% discount. So if I know that's the discount, then that's my word for the top, because this whole piece up here is my discount, and then this whole piece on the bottom is my total. So my number I have in my problem is 3. So is the 3, am I going to go up here as my discount, or is it going to go on the bottom as my total? So let's reread that sentence. It says, the amount of the discount is 3. So is 3 my discount or the total? It says discount. So it's going to be 3 on top. And then remember, we have the missing piece, which is what? X. Okay. So that means when it says what is the regular price of the mirror, my X is going to be the total. So now we can solve. So we circle across. So this time I'm going the opposite direction. We cannot circle the X, and we multiply those. So 3 times 100 is 300. Okay, I can do that one in my head. And then the number that's left over is 20. So we are dividing by 20. Okay, and let's write that like a fraction. And I can get rid of matching zeros again, so that's always nice. So I'm left with 30 over 2, which means 30 divided by 2, which is 15. Okay, I can do that one in my head. So let's see if that makes sense. So if I have a $3 discount, would 15 be a decent total? And it's bigger, so that makes sense. So yes, so always check and make sure your answer makes sense. All right, last one. Example number 3. Yesterday, 170 guests at a hotel called for room service. 225 guests did not call for room service. What percentage of the guests at this hotel called for room service yesterday? So in this one, I do not have a percentage. Both of my numbers are regular numbers. So I have 170 guests and 225 guests, but I have the word percentage. So this is the other type of problem. So let's go back up to the top. So if I have two numbers and either a percent or the word percent, then I can set up a WKU. So it's gonna have to have the word percent or the symbol, okay? So now when I set up my proportion, 3 lines, okay, W, K, U, my percent goes over 100 and total goes on the bottom, okay? But do I have a percentage? No, I don't. 170 and 225, they don't have percent signs. If it doesn't have a percent sign, it's not a percent. So this time, X is my percentage, okay? And it says, what percentage of the guest called for room service? So the word for X is going to be called. We want the people who called for room service. And then I want you to, we're gonna reread the sentence and figure out how many people that was. So it says 170 guests called for room service. So 170 is my part. Okay, and this is where we have to be careful. Really listen here. It says 225 did not call. So that's not my total. That's just the amount that did not call. So in this problem, I have to take my guest who called and the guest who did not call, and I have to add those guests together to get the total. The ones who called and the ones who did not call. So you can't just put your two numbers in the middle and just put 225 does not go in the middle there because it's not my total. That's the not. So we need to do 170 plus 225 and add those up. So it would be 395 would be my total. And 395 wasn't even in the problem. We had to make that number by adding the called and not called. So in this situation, we have our fraction in the middle. We want to know what that percent would be. So we would have to solve, and to solve, we would multiply these two. We would multiply across. So when you have multiplying by 100, I'm going to write 170, and then 100 has 2 zeros, so I'm going to add 2 zeros onto that. Okay? And then the number that's left over is 395, and then I would do 395. Okay? And whatever that answer is going to be my percentage. And just for the sake of time, if I wanted to write this like a fraction, I cannot get rid of any zeros. So I went ahead and solved this for us, and it is 42%. And again, that's just for the sake of time. I went ahead and did that division for us. So WKU, you can do that when you have a percent and another number in a word problem, or two numbers and the word percent in a word problem.